by ensuring women and girls around the world are healthy, educated, and empowered. We secure a world that is just and fair for future generations. That's why International Women's Day is especially important. On this day, we recognize women's achievements and demand for their equal rights. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I am Semenyi Sheikh Oye and I'm joined by my co-host Oriane Itangishaka. And joining us today at the table is our new co-host Anastasia Tudieshe.
Hi ladies.
Hello, hello.
Hello,
Welcome
hello.
to the table.
Thank you.
Well, you are not new to the Voice of America and definitely not to Our Voices.
Indeed.
So I think we should say welcome back.
Welcome. Welcome back
Thank
to the
you.
building.
Thank you.
Yeah. How does it feel like to come back on this special day for women?
Let's see. It's amazing. It's only blessings on blessing, happiness on happiness.
That's great.
Yes, it's really a pleasure to have you. 5 years, right?
Yeah,
The
it's been
last
5
time.
years.
Exactly. So I left DRC, that is home, to come back to the US, that is home too, and I get new roommates.
Yes.
Happiness.
We're so happy to have you.
Yeah. Well, we would like to also give a big thank you to our co-host Jeannie Niwa as well for working with us over the past couple of months. She may not be here on a regular basis, but she will continue to be part of the team.
I have a fun fact about Ginny.
Yeah?
I am the first person ever to have introduced her to eating caterpillar, and it was at my home in Kinshasa. So yeah,
Did she like it?
She loved it.
Oh, yeah.
She loved it.
Well, we are already missing her, obviously.
Yes.
But I want to start by saying Happy Women's Day to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank
To
you
you
so
too.
much.
Thank
It's a
you.
very special day for women.
It is, and
Yeah.
Happy Women's Day to all women and girls watching us today. Well, I know as journalists we give special emphasis to International Women's Day. We try to cover, try to feature a lot of women from around the world. But I want to share women who inspire us from the continent. It could be from cities, villages we come from. Oriane, I know you just came back from Burundi, so
Yes.
share with us about women in Burundi.
Wow. We have a group of women that I work with on many different occasions, on many different conferences and things like that. We're called Femmes Fortes, Femmes Dynamiques. Strong women, dynamic women. And I just want to wish all of them and many other women around the world Happy Women's Day. And I'm just so happy that this day has come when I come back to the studio after a little vacation.
Well, Happy Women's Day to Burundi women. And
So as for me, as you know, I come back from Kinshasa, and I think to step aside a little bit, I don't have. Women are aspiring, we all know that, but I think we don't realize how powerful we are. As much as we push, we want more from men and society, let's not forget that we raise men who then go on and build society. So I would like that day today to be a day where we sit and ask ourselves, am I doing enough to empower other women? Am I doing enough to empower girls?
I like what you say, like we don't realize how much powerful we are because, women farmers and other women are the best example for that.
Yes.
Well, since International Women's Day was first celebrated in 1911, women have long battled barriers for equality with their male counterparts. They have led purposeful resistance and actions in the hope of a better future for their communities. Yet, so much work remains to be done. As United Nations says, an estimated 8% of the world's female population will live in extreme poverty by 2030. It also says half of people worldwide still perceive men as better political leaders than women, stressing the large gender gap in power and leadership. Today is International Women's Day, and under the theme it's celebrated Inspire Inclusion, emphasizing the importance of diversity and gender equity in all aspects of society. On today's edition of Our Voices, we will discuss what it means to truly inspire inclusion, how to speak up against gender bias, and how to forge a better world where women are empowered to innovate, lead, and inspire future generations.
And as the world marks International Women's Day, the spotlight turns to the ongoing struggle for women's inclusion, a battle waged against the backdrop of inequality, stereotypes, and bias. Despite significant strides towards fairness and the investment in women's empowerment, the reality for many remains a far cry from the dream of equal recognition and celebration. Huba Abdi takes us into the heart of this issue, revealing the resilience and determination of women who continue to fight for their rightful place in a society that promises change but often falls short.
Faith Odhiambo has been elected the 51st President of the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, making history as the second female to secure this esteemed role. Her election signals a momentous stride towards gender equality in Kenya's legal profession. Odhiambo steps into leadership amid evolving gender norms with the legal community. She is tasked with the dual responsibility of living up to the considerable expectation prompted by her landmark victory and navigating the unique challenges of being a woman in a traditionally male-dominated field.
If you look at the Bar Association, there's only one woman who has ever been president. I am now the second. It also shows that there is a problem of ensuring that many women show up. If you look at my new council, there are many women, and we will try to make sure that we put women lawyers in the front so that more women can come forward.
Faith Odhiambo's election as the new president of the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, heralds a progressive shift into the nation's leadership landscape, embodying the increasing dynamism of female leadership in Kenya. This pivotal advancement propels the movement for gender parity within both the professional sphere and public domain. Odhiambo's ascendancy is widely regarded as the dawn of a more inclusive and diverse era for the LSK, with implications that may transcend Kenya's border, inspiring similar transformation within professional bodies throughout Africa.
Well, we'll continue our conversation related to today's special day, International Women's Day. Removing legal and social barriers that hinder women's participation in politics, such as discriminatory laws and cultural biases, is one way to empower women to leadership positions. To discuss further why such inclusion matters for society, we invited Dr. Jarpa Dawuni, Associate Professor of Political Science at Howard University. She is also the founding director of Howard University's Center for Women, Gender and Global Leadership, which was established in 2020. She belongs to several professional bodies as well. A Fulbright scholar, Dr. Dawuni received a number of awards for her various publications and service. Dr. Dawuni, it's really a great pleasure to have you here with us.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here with you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So this year's theme is Inspire Inclusion. Let's start by asking, what do we mean by that? What does it mean to inspire inclusion?
Yeah. Thank you once again for having me. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, it's a day that we recognize women's contributions, we recognize their struggles, and we reflect on what more needs to be done. And when we ask about, when we use the word inclusion, it means there's a problem to start with. It means there has been exclusion. So what do we mean by inclusion? That means recognizing that women are part of the global system, are part of the communities in which they belong, and that they should have full and equal representation, whether symbolic representation, representation in decision-making, and also representation in economic decisions that have to be made. So inclusion across all board, that will mean that we are really moving towards correcting the exclusion that happened in the first place.
That's true. I definitely agree that there has been exclusion. That is why we have a Women's Day. We do have Father's Day, but a Women's Day on a global level. We do have work-life balance, which is always as an obstacle for women. And some look at it as an obstacle, but some think of it as a prejudice. What is your view on that?
Well, those words have been pushed back. Many have pushed back against that word balance, because when you're trying to balance, you're really putting in a lot of effort and energy to make sure that you are equally balanced out. Some people, they like to call it a harmony. How do I achieve a harmony? How do I achieve some semblance of being at equilibrium? So all these different ways have been used in order to say that, look, when you try so hard to balance, it can actually lead to a lot more stress, a lot more anxiety. So I would say that for each person, decide which one you want to do, whether you want to balance it You want to create an equilibrium or a harmony. It is a reality. It is not a prejudice. When you have to do so much, taking care of the home, taking care of the professional work, and even if you are considered a stay-home mom, that's a full-time job. Correct. Now consider many women who work in all forms of industries, the formal, the informal. You have to constantly juggle. And so it's a reality, and we shouldn't call it a prejudice.
Well, thank you, Doctor, for those words of gold. I don't know for you ladies, but I already feel better. Just, I feel seen and understood. I have another question for you. How do we break down gender barriers and create a more inclusive and safer environment for women?
I think it begins with education. We need to educate ourselves, and I don't mean having a degree or a PhD. I always tell people that I became a feminist unknown to me because of my maternal grandmother, who was not formally educated. She was so strong, and I still remember fondly the many things she taught me about being an empowered woman. And so it helped me to understand from a very early age that it's all about socialization. She made my two brothers do the jobs that I did. And I knew that if they have to do it from home, why would I expect less when I go out? So we have to start with the intentional breaking and re-socialization and relearning. And those biases are not just something that men only face, that women also do. So we have to have conversations about what have I been taught, what do I need to unlearn, and what do I need to relearn?
Exactly.
It's very important because we do need to empower them to be in leadership position with juggling all those responsibilities. Well, we're here in studio with Dr. Jarpa Dawuni, Harvard University's director of the Harvard University Center for Women, Gender, and Global Leadership here in Washington, D.C. We will continue our conversation on why gender inclusion matters in Africa and how to address the barriers to equality of opportunity with Rwanda's Minister of Gender and Family Promotion. She'll tell us how they are working to empower girls and young women. We also love to hear from you on social media, on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and formerly now known as X. Our handle is VOA Africa. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. But before we go on our break, let's hear from our VOA Africa Division Director, Salwa Jafari, who is one of our 4 language service directors at the Voice of America. She appears here along with Lili Soltani of the Persian Division, Aisha Tazem, the Director of South and Central Asia Division, and Nadia Majid, Director of South Asia Pacific Division. Mrs. Jafari shares the importance of coverage of women on our airwaves. Take a listen and we'll be right back.
As far as I'm concerned, every day is a Women's Day. I mean, most women would tell you that. Every day of the year should be a Women's Day because we participate in so much on a daily basis. Everything as a media professional, because every year, it's the same time. It's time to kind of stop for a minute and think about what we've done as a media organization, and also look at the women in our region and what they've done, the progress they've done, what needs to be done. How can we contribute to that progress? How can we give them a voice? How can we cover stories that are neglected by the local media? So that's what it means to me, really. Throughout, and I think it's in every newsroom throughout the world. March 8th, I'm sure you will have a meeting about, okay, what are we going to do this year? It's an opportunity to intensify the coverage of women. It doesn't mean that we don't do it throughout the year, but March 8th is, we have to stop and think about what we've done throughout the year, and let's do better maybe next year.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories. that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Welcome back. You are tuned into Our Voices, and we are discussing why it really means to inspire inclusion of women and why it matters. We are in the studio with Dr. Jarpa Dawuni, former director of the Howard University Center for Women, Gender and Global Leadership, and also associate professor of political science. And now joining us via Skype from Rwandan capital of Kigali is Dr. Valentine Uwamariya, the Minister of Gender and Family Promotion. Prior to her current appointment, she also served as Minister of Education from 2020 to 2023. Dr. Uwamariya also was the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of training, institutional development, and research in the newly established Rwandan Polytechnic. Dr. Uwamariya, welcome to Our Voices.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Happy Women's Day.
Thank you. Happy Women's Day to you too. It's a great pleasure to have you. Since you were also in charge of education before your current position, I would like to ask you, would you say education is key for women empowerment and inclusion? Is that where it should start from?
Without hesitation, that is the key for the empowerment of women, because without education, you cannot access any other services. So education is very key.
Mm-hmm. Tell us the Rwanda experience. I know Rwanda is recognized for achieving a lot in gender equality. So in education front, what have the country done?
First of all, allow me to talk about Rwanda after the genocide against the Tutsi. After 1994, 70% of Rwandans were women. So reason why Rwanda decided to empower women, because they showed a commitment to reconstruct, to rebuild the country that was totally destroyed. Most of them were widows, and they had the task to take care of the orphans. They played a key role in bringing justice. They were part of the justice system in Rwanda after the 1994 genocide. So they helped a lot in reconstructing and rebuilding the country and bringing the unity among Rwandans. So what we did as a country for education, first of all, we put our policies that would help us implement what we decide as a country to do. So we do have a girls' education policy that is implemented through the Ministry of Education, but also other partners that we have in Rwanda. But on top of that, we have gender policy that caters for all categories of women in Rwanda. So education is very key, and today we see many women joining programs that we considered for men in the past, like engineering, medicine, and other hard programs that were not really attended by women.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uwamariya. We would love to continue that conversation, and we will. But before we do, let's listen to women from the continent on how they feel about International Women's Day. Our reporter Fahad Sibagala talked to women in Uganda's capital, Kampala, and we have Jennifer Tibagonzeka, Dorothy Kezia Asimwe, Elizabeth Merindwe, and Mildred Tuhaize in our Your Voice segment. Take a listen.
As an African girl, I celebrate the Women's Day because it means a lot to me. I have to go through a lot as a mother. I have to go a lot as a parent. I work as a secretary, and this has a lot to carry on.
It means being seen, acknowledged, and appreciated for the work that I do. In the bank, I sit on a number of tables, and most times I do a count of the number of women in the meeting or in the forum.
The cultural norms still operate despite new developments around, despite new education. The expectations on the woman still remain.
We are vested with the responsibility of nurturing, of raising not only our children, but also the children of the nation. So as we celebrate Women's Day, I want to challenge each and every woman to believe in themselves and that nothing is impossible. Things are only challenging, and what you think cannot be done, someone else has done.
I hope that I am representing the woman who is out there. I hope that I'm able to bring some softness, warmth, and nurturing even in the boardroom. And that is why Women's Day is important.
Women's Day reminds us of our role, reminds us of the recognition that we have because of the role we play, knowing that you play a big part in nurturing and the impact we have on the society as a whole.
Believe in yourself and be able to challenge any kind of, hurdles that come your way, and you will be successful. Happy Women's Day.
Nice word to end this Vox Pop with, being successful. Thank you to all the ladies who have kindly answered our questions. We are still with Dr. Uwamariya. And I have a question for you, Doctor. In addition to leadership positions, women lag behind in sectors like technology. How do you think should we advocate for women to be in tech and other science fields?
I think that is the way to go. When you look at what we are in today, we cannot move forward without having skilled people in general in digital skills. So for women particularly, we have to provide platforms, but also to facilitate them in one way or another, because sometimes it's an issue of knowing where there are opportunities and how do we link women with the opportunities that are out there. So I think we have to be able to connect women with high-tech companies, not only for capacitating them in terms of skills, but also providing them platform to showcase what they can do. In Rwanda, we've done that. We are lucky to have such platforms, and today we can be happy to say that most women are now connected with the current technologies that are out there. And I think we must be deliberate to also select women whenever they are showing the will to invest into technology. It is possible, but again, as we started saying, education is very key. Having the skills and then creating platforms and connecting those platforms, the owners of the platforms with women is one way to go.
Great, that's awesome. Well, let me bring it back to the studio a little bit, Minister. I wanted to ask Professor Dawuni about the key sectors like education, where we see women as the majority, but yet we see the salaries are very low often. Why is that in your view, and what can be done in that regards?
Yeah, thank you. So if you allow me very quickly, this morning at dawn, I posted on my LinkedIn profile that it's International Women's Day, really international. And the reason is because when you look at the amount of women in the world, millions and millions of women in the world who are not even aware of this day. And it's partly because of the systems that place them in conditions that don't give them time to breathe on a daily basis. And so those are kind of the professions you're talking about. We all need education. And I think in the beginning, the hostess said that women have given birth to men or human beings, but we undervalue the labor of women. So women give birth, They educate the children at home. They educate them in schools, primary school through maybe high school. They take care of them when they go to the hospital. Women are highly nurses.
Right.
And so all these sectors, women are the ones farming, bringing food home. So what do we need to do? We need to put more value on these positions where we find women.
That's a very
100%
good
agree.
point.
Yeah.
And we would love to have more conversation, but we don't have time. So we'd like to thank Dr. Uwamariya, the Rwanda Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, for joining us via Skype from Kigali, Rwanda. And we also want to thank Dr. Dawuni, Founding Director of Howard University Center for Women, Gender and Global Leadership, and Associate Professor Political Science, for joining us. Before we close the show, let us quickly introduce you to a remarkable woman who broke many barriers and became the first Somali American woman to be elected as mayor in the United States in our Women to Watch segment. Nadia Mohammed, 26, came to St. Louis Park, a city in the U.S. state of Minnesota, as a 10-year-old refugee in 2019. And she made history by becoming the city's first Muslim and first Somali council member. She was also the youngest ever elected. In 2023, St. Louis voters elected Mohammed as the first Muslim and the first Somali mayor in the United States. Well, Minnesota is home to the largest Somali community in the United States, and Mohammed says becoming a mayor is her way of showing anything is possible. What a remarkable achievement. And this is where we end our show. Again, we thank our guests, Dr. Dawuni from Howard University, and also Dr. Uwamariya, Minister of Gender from Rwanda. Continue the conversation on our website, on our voices, and also on voaafrica.com, or also on our YouTube channel, where you can catch up with the latest episodes and the world's top news stories. Last but not least, we want to thank our editorial team and production on Our Voices. We'll see you again next week with another exciting program. Be sure to continue the conversation on our social media platforms. Until then, thanks for joining the conversation, and happy International Women's History Month for all women and girls on the continent and everywhere around the world. Be safe.